Joining the 158th episode of the People's Court. It's Saturday, May 10th. Today we'll be playing a game called Either Or, talking about the second round of the playoffs, and the Sterling saga keeps unfolding. Court is now in session.
And now here are your hosts, Chris, Lamont, and Adam.
Hey. It's Fat. No, it's not Fat Albert. This is the People's Court. I'm Chris Peoples, and guess what? I know how to press pause. Joined as always by Lamont. And, of course, Adam. What's going on?
Good almost afternoon from the Pacific Northwest. Beautiful day here in Olympia. Great day to watch the playoffs.
It is a great day to watch the playoffs, as always. And this is unusual because I can't see us. It's unusual for me. I'm not used to having this set up, but we'll get used to it. Before we continue, if you'd like to contact the People's Court, please do so by calling us at 424-ADJOURN. That's 424-235-7633. You can hit us up on Twitter at People's Court FM. Or check out our website, http://thepeoplescourt.fm.
Yeah, you can call and sing Chris a happy birthday today.
Oh, yeah, you can do
But don't do it on air, we'll get sued.
That's right. You can just leave him a message.
I know we're all kind of burnt out on Donald Sterling, but a couple of things happened that I have to mention. I can't let another week go by without talking about these things. So obviously the owners are still moving forward with removing Sterling as the owner of the Clippers. They've already installed their own CEO. I forget his name, but they put a person in place to run the day-to-day operations of the Clippers until I think unless they get another owner in place, because they banned Sterling. What's his name? Andy Rosen? No, not Andy Rosen.
The team vice president.
The guy second in command behind Sterling, who's been Sterling's kind of right-hand man for 20-plus seasons. He stepped down, or he's taking an indefinite leave of absence.
Oh, no, he was forced out. He was forced out. He didn't step down. The NBA forced him.
They worded it as an indefinite leave of absence, but right. It was the NBA power.
Worded it however they want. They kicked him out. The NBA is cleaning house, which I'm not sure how legal it is. That's what I'm interested to see, is just how this is definitely a gray area, but I'm hijacking the conversation. Keep going.
No, fine. That's fine. I mean, that's one of the things to talk about, the how legal it is for them to go in and do that while they feel that they have the power, obviously. And apparently there are some contractual things that Sterling and all owners are actually forced to sign, not forced to sign, but all owners have to sign, which is enables the NBA to go through with removing Sterling. Some kind of they call it a breach of contract, essentially, is what's happened here with Sterling's soundbite, and that's how they're going through with the whole proceedings. But the other thing that's come out of this now is that Donald Sterling's estranged wife, Shelly Sterling, she still wants to keep the team, obviously. And not only will, of course, the league potentially face a fight from Donald Sterling, they now will potentially face a fight from Shelly Sterling saying that, hey, you only banned Donald. You didn't do anything to me. So she still feels like she has the right to run the team. I think that's just bad for everybody. I
do too.
I mean,
what business is she have running the team? Is it her name on the contract? I know California has split laws, but if it's not her name on the contract, I completely understand her wanting to keep the team from a financial perspective. A lot of money going out the door if she doesn't get to keep it. But I would rather have seen her try and buy. I don't know how. Maybe she couldn't try and buy it because she technically already owns it. But yeah, I just think having the Sterling name associated with that team in any way, shape, or form, not a good choice. I would rather see somebody invested in. Well, yeah, I'm not going to get started on that, but yeah, I want Sterling's out.
It's just it reminds me of the whole Frank and Linda McCourt, whatever Frank McCourt's wife, the previous owner of the Dodgers. It just reminds me of that whole situation. And if Shelley gets involved now, I mean, it just makes the whole thing much uglier for the NBA. It's going to draw out the process even longer. Something that we thought would hopefully be done by the beginning of next season could take even longer now if Shelley gets involved here. So, like I said, I think it's just bad for everybody. Shelley, and it's not like she's any better than Donald. You know, she's come out.
She was named in all the same housing discrimination lawsuits that he was. She's never been visible with the team until now.
Well, I mean, she's better at not getting caught on tape saying racial things, saying racist things. I mean, that's got to count for something, right?
Yeah, I mean, she doesn't have a mistress out there that's willing to record private conversations of her, you know, being racist and a bigot on. You know.
She doesn't have Alzheimer's, so she doesn't have to have somebody record it. So that'll make her a better owner.
Yeah, but Shelley, please just let this go. Come on. And speaking of recordings, I don't know if you guys heard this, but somebody leaked another recording of Donald Sterling. This time, of course, it's Sterling saying, "Oh, I can't believe that people think I'm racist. Da da da. I grew up in Los Angeles, and da da da." And then he says, "I can't believe Magic went out and said those things about me." And clearly, Donald Sterling is a person who doesn't understand public relations, right? Because when the recording first leaked, what did he do? He came out and said that the tape was altered, it wasn't him, and basically tried to deny the fact that he said those things. Apparently, according to Ramona Shelburne, in a I guess a play-by-play of the events, the Clippers wanted to put forth a different message, put a different statement out there, but Sterling was like, "No, we got to deny this." So that was Sterling saying those things, trying to deny those allegations. And now a tape gets released, and clearly this is Donald Sterling recording himself, trying to I guess, turn the tables here. I don't know. This is bad. Like, why would you record yourself as if you didn't know you were getting recorded, and then release that as some sort of defense? Like, clearly, look, I'm a good guy. Here's me on tape saying I'm a good guy. So this guy just doesn't get public relations.
No, he doesn't. The whole thing is clear. I mean, he doesn't. We know he doesn't get it because he's racist. Like, we get that. Stupid. He's just stupid. He thinks the color of people's skin affects the way they are as human beings. Period. So we know that he's an idiot. We already know that.
Right.
On top of that, he doesn't even know the playbook for getting caught doing something in the public eye. Like, I may disagree with the fact that essentially the NBA is pulling essentially a bait and switch around this guy's affecting the bottom line, but we're going to take a moral crusade. We're going to stay, and they should take a moral crusade. They should take the stance, but they should have gotten rid of him a long time ago. Put that to the side. The playbook for this is to say, you're right, I did it, I did the wrong thing, and I'm going to go and get help. That's the playbook. Everybody knows that. The mayor of San Diego did that. The mayor in Vancouver probably should do that. But he's not doing it. He's completely bumbling the whole thing, which is just more proof that he needs to be gone. Period.
Yeah, he's handling this about as well as he's run the Clippers over the past 30 years. And that's to say, very badly.
Not very well.
Yeah. And that's all I got to say about Sterling. You got anything to add there, Lamont?
Absolutely
about good
not.
Donald?
Absolutely not. I want it to go away. Actually, what I want to happen is for everybody to chill and not report a single thing until they move to vote.
Oh yeah, that's not going to happen. This is a story that's going to keep telling itself. You know,
got legs.
I know. Yeah, it's got legs. It's going to run. It's going to run through that and until he's gone. And then even a little bit beyond that, when they try to sell the team and who buys the team and all that. So I mean, this story is going to run for a long time. That's just the news cycle now.
Yeah, well, but I also think so. There are a couple of I feel two ways about that. Lamont, I completely agree with you on one hand. Like, let's stop putting the Sterlings under a microscope because they don't matter. They're completely superfluous to this whole situation. We want them out. The NBA wants them out. They're getting them out for good and bad reasons. Well, actually, for good and good reasons, but for public and more secretive reasons. What I'm more interested in is how the NBA deals with it. I want to see, because very rarely do we get to see the machinations of them, and I've said this before, very rarely do we get to see the machinations of these corporations, these leagues at work. And so being able to see the way that the league responds to a cancer and the way that the legal battle plays out, I think is really, really important and really fascinating to see exactly how Silver handles it and how the league handles it. That, to me, is the really interesting part. That's going to get a lot less attention because it's more complicated, has a lot less legs than just saying Sterling's a racist and his whole family's a racist over and over again.
Right.
No, that's a good point. But what I mean is, like, the way the news gets reported now, it's piecemeal reporting. So like, you don't get the whole story. You don't get the whole story. You get like just a little bit of piece, and that piece of it, and that's the news. So everybody reports the same. So the same little thing. Oh, another Sterling take gets released. Blah blah blah. Oh, Shirley Sterling is going to attend tonight's game. Blah 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 blah. That it's like all these little tiny little bits and pieces of things that aren't a big deal. Like that don't completely answer the question.
Yeah.
Is big news now, and that's what makes me kind of sick of this Sterling thing. So like, Sterling's gonna do one thing, and then that blah 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 blah. Everybody wants to get a little piece of their strategy. What's the NBA's legal strategy going into this? And I want to wait to see till something happens. Like as of right now, nothing has happened with the Sterling situation. In 2 weeks, well, except for Dick Carter, I think is his name, being named the interim CEO.
Yeah.
But everything else, it's not really adding anything to the story.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about it again next week because Lamont left to talk about it. No, but here Monique brings up a great point on Twitter. She says Donald Sterling is not an anomaly. He's not the only owner to have racist views. He's just the one who got caught. To ask people to stop talking about it is to ask people to ignore something that is pervasive and damaging to the league. And I completely agree with Monique there. This is an important thing to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And even though we may not want to talk specifically about Donald Sterling anymore, to continue talking about the situation and to use Sterling as a jumping point to bring up a bigger issue, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with this, like I said, this story to run until Sterling is out, and even beyond that, because Sterling still has, he still owns apartment complexes. Let's talk about this until Donald Sterling sells those complexes. Like, let's keep this thing going. I'm okay with it.
Well, and I would like to see more of the owners and the ownership groups called into question. Again, Rich DeVos, not in the news, even though he's continuing to codify, or essentially continuing to attempt to make homosexual marriage illegal. Now, that's a pretty conservative viewpoint. It's not popular right now, and I think if he got on tape saying, I don't want to see you posing with any homosexuals, he'd be out. But he's not getting caught on tape. So I agree with Monique, and we said the same thing last week, that we absolutely need to have this conversation because we know that there are still douchebag owners in the NBA. There's no question about that. But this story isn't going to go, there's not going to be any investigative journalism, right? We're not going to be looking into any of the owners because then ESPN would lose its access to the Orlando locker room or would lose access to some very coveted piece of access that they have. We're not going to see anything investigative. We're only going to see reactive journalism. If something comes up, we'll report it, but we're not going to go snooping in any closets. And that, to me, is the really disappointing thing. And that, to me, again, is proof of the hypocrisy of the NBA. They're reacting to somebody getting caught, and they're using that moment to oust somebody who's been a thorn in their side for a long time. But they're not going to take an active role in really evaluating who their owners are.
Yeah, that's a great point about the investigative journalism. I mean, maybe it's not the responsibility of ESPN, who, like I said, is a broadcasting partner of the NBA, or TNT, or any ABC property, But maybe it's somebody else's responsibility as a journalist to go and dig into this deeper. I mean, we don't just because it's a sports story doesn't mean ESPN has to report on it. It doesn't have to be Sports Illustrated. It could be somebody else to go in and take a deeper look. And I'm not a journalist either, so I mean I don't have any NBA connections. It doesn't have to be Mark Stein or Ramon Shelbourne or Kevin Berger or any of these people or Adrian W. I'm not going to even try to pronounce his last name.
Wojnarowski.
Yeah, but maybe it could be somebody else that goes in and takes a deeper look. I mean, Outside the Lines does this constantly, but it doesn't have to be the usual suspects taking a deeper look at the situation. So maybe they're, what do they call it, like a witch hunt? I'm okay, let's do that. Let's expose these guys for what they are and make sure that the people who are bad seeds get out of there.
That's such a slippery slope because what determines what a bad seed is?
I do!
The public opinion determines it. Because, again, it's hard to amass billions of dollars with being a nice person. Where do we draw the line on is Mark Cuban a nice person? It's really unclear. I think he's a great owner and he's great for the league. Is he a nice person? Hard to say. I don't really know. You can also be a nice person and do good things, or be a bad person and do good things for society. Again, we can't break this thing. We can't flatten this down, and that's what's really nice about the Sterling thing. Clear black and white. This is the World War II of sports owner scandals. We know he's a bad guy. It's been clearly laid out. I don't think it would be that clear with everybody else in the league. Very few people are that much of a dinosaur. But, again, you amass billions of dollars, you're going to piss some people off and say some things you probably don't mean or say some things you're going to regret. So finding out who the bad people are in the league, they're probably all of them. So
yeah,
it's a slippery slope, no question about it.
Let's move on to some of the coaching changes that have happened in the past couple of weeks that we've kind of ignored because we've really been talking a lot about this Donald Sterling situation. A couple of weeks ago, Mike D'Antoni resigned his. Again, here we go with he resigned his post as head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. Words are that the Lakers were going to fire him, and they just kind of save their face for everybody. They let D'Antoni resign. Well, not let, but from the PR standpoint, let him resign. And I don't know. You think it's a good thing for the Lakers?
Yes, it's a great thing for the Lakers. And the reason why is because now they can bring in a coach, and I really don't care who it is, as long as it's not Kurt Rambis or Byron Scott. But they can bring in, but their next coach can just coach the team and not have to deal with the shadow of Phil Jackson.
Yeah, it's gonna. With whoever they hire next is gonna have a much easier transition than D'Antoni did or Mike Brown did. Clearly, they don't have to worry about people saying that they should have hired Phil Jackson instead because Phil Jackson's already employed by another team. So that's certainly a plus. I still think the next coach that gets hired is a lame duck coach anyway, because this is the coach that's going to coach them through the rebuilding process. And that coach, that's usually somebody you just kind of put in the interim for maybe 2 or 3 seasons. And then once you've built your team up, then you put in, because, who wants to, there's not too many coaches who want to take on a rebuilding project. So it's usually some coach who's been fired before, some coach who hasn't had as much success in the past, or a brand new coach who you don't really kind of know, like a Brad Stevens in Boston Celtics, right? So whichever coach they decide to help them through that rebuilding phase is somebody who could probably have a very short tenure with the Lakers as they rebuild, and if they're able to get more assets and get more stars, then they'll bring in a star coach to coach that team.
So Doug Collins is perfect for this team. He gets to coach
Absolutely
a bunch of young guys, burn them out in 2 years, and then he's gone. So perfect. Nailed it. Done. So the most interesting stat I have seen about the coaching changes this year, Jeff Hornacek of the Phoenix Suns is now the longest tenured coach in the Pacific Division.
Yeah, he is.
Technically, yes.
Yes. Not technically. That's the only way you look at it. The average tenure in the Pacific Division is 0.6 seasons. 60% of a season is your average tenure there.
Well, considering there are 2 teams in the Pacific that don't have a coach, and that leads us straight into Golden State firing Mark Jackson this week. Yeah, I mean, the only two coaches left, the only two teams that have a coach in the specific division are the Suns and the Clippers.
Yeah.
So,
Just,
but yeah, Mike Jackson fired in Golden State.
wait, the Kings have a coach.
Oh, the Kings do have a coach.
Mike Malone's a coach. He's not much of a coach, but I think he still counts.
He does. So I mean, I guess he's been the coach of the Kings as long as Hornacek and
Yeah, they
Rivers
basically
have been coaches of their teams.
the turnover in the Pacific Division since 2013 has been 5 for 5. It's not easy being a coach in the NBA.
It certainly isn't, and especially, I mean, Mark Jackson is one of those guys too that exemplifies exactly what you said. 2 consecutive playoff appearances for a team that had missed the playoffs so many seasons in a row. A 50-win season, which is the most that they've had in quite some time. Players that like him, people think that he's done extremely well for the team, yet fired. Not unlike George Karl last season, Lionel Hollins last season, to a degree Vinny Del Negro last season, getting fired after setting a record for Clippers wins in a season. What's going on? Like, how come 50-win coaches keep getting fired from their teams?
Because it's the easy answer. It's the easy answer.
No, it's different. I think it's differing philosophies with management. The difference, the thing that makes the Mark Jackson firing so, I don't know, weird to me. Like, everyone saw this coming, but he had his best players campaigning for him, pretty much like saying, like, Steph Curry's has been on record like at least 5 times in the last month saying, "Oh, I love Mark Jackson. He's our coach."
Yeah, a big reason why Andre Iguodala went to the Warriors. Mark Jackson,
because of Mark Jackson.
Jermaine O'Neal said he wouldn't play next year if Mark Jackson's not the coach.
Yeah, he said basically they're playing for Mark Jackson's job once it was a game before Game 4, Game 5 of the first round, and those situations didn't happen with Vinny Del Negro or Lionel Hollins or even George Karl. Like, his players didn't cake for him. Their players didn't cake for him.
Well, I think with George Karl, there wasn't that kind of writing on the wall saying that if they got eliminated early from the playoffs that George Karl was going to lose his job. I think everyone was pretty surprised when George Karl lost his job. Lionel Hollins, I think the writing was on the wall with him because, like I said, there was philosophical differences between upper management and himself and the way that his style of coaching. Vinny Del Negro, well, I mean, he didn't really coach the team. That was Chris Paul coaching the team. So they needed – everybody understood that they needed to get a real head coach in there to give them a chance at the championship. This one, I mean, like I said, everybody feels that Mark Jackson's a great coach. The ownership group and management that's there right now, they hired Mark Jackson. So there isn't a philosophical difference because it's not like there's been a regime change since Mark Jackson's become head coach. So the fact that they decided to let him go, I think it's just the expectation. It goes all the way back to the expectations that this team had for itself. And Adam, you'll be the first to point out that those were unwarranted expectations.
Totally unwarranted.
But I know they didn't feel that they should have exited in the first round. Even though they won 51 games this season, they probably felt they should have won more, given the team that they have. So, not unlike the Clippers, felt that they needed to bring in a person who can take the team to the next level, not feeling that Mark Jackson's that person. I don't necessarily know if I agree with that analysis. I mean, this is a guy who's had to deal with injuries to key players just as the playoffs begin or in the playoffs. I mean, how do you outperform expectations at the beginning of the season when, of course, those expectations are for a full roster when you lose a key component right before the playoffs start? And of course, that person I'm talking about is Andrew Bogut going.
Yeah, and then and furthermore, how like realistically, they took the Clippers a legit
7 games
to 7 games
without Andrew Bogut.
So all this makes me believe there's some, even though it's not a philosophy, there's some personality difference between him and Lacob. There's something else going on that we're not privy to. At least the 3 of us are not privy to.
Yeah. So it's personal, which is kind of that's a dangerous position to be in when You're not getting evaluated based on what you've done on the court as a head coach, but you're getting evaluated for the interpersonal relationship that you have with your owner. That's kind of strange.
I don't think that's. Why is that strange? I think having a united organization is really important. I think being able to agree with the people who are making decisions for your assets is a really important thing. And all signs do point to it being essentially a personnel issue rather than an achievement issue, because you can't prevent Andrew Bogut from getting injured unless LeCope thought he should have played him less minutes during the season so he wouldn't get injured, but it was a broken rib anyway, so that you can't. That's a freak accident, and they did take him to 7. But I disagree. I think if you're in the position to decide who is in control of your assets and you want them to be on the same page as you are, then that's absolutely a good reason for letting people go. If that's always going to be causing friction and you want your team to do well and the person is not on the same page as you are, yeah, I think that's a perfectly valid reason for letting somebody go. Now, are they going to be able to find somebody who can do better than Mark Jackson or do as well as him and not have the same friction? That remains to be seen. That I speak to, but I think it's a perfectly valid reason to let somebody go if you're not getting along with them and you're the person in charge.
I mean, I know for myself, if my boss were to come to me and say, Chris, you know what, I just don't like you. You got to go. Then I would be like, what the hell, man? Like, give me a better chance. I mean, it's one thing to have a bad working relationship and then having that lead to firing somebody, but then for you to just say, well, I don't like you or
well, okay,
I don't like what you stand for, like, it's kind of
that maybe I implied, but I don't think that LeCope went and be like, you know what, Mark, I don't like you. Your taste in shoes is horrible. You're gone. I'm sure that this has been evolving over the time where it's like, well, Mark, these are the reasons that we're not getting along. Can you change that? Yes, no, maybe so. I doubt it was just I don't like you. I'm sure that the relationship between them has been maturing over the course of however 3 years that they've been together, and it's just not working for him, and it's not working for the organization. So I agree with you. If somebody just came in and said, I don't like you, you have to go, that would be pretty upsetting. But my suspicion is that's not how it went.
I hope you're right, because that would be a very weird situation to be involved in. And I don't know who they can get, like you said, that can do a better job than Mark Jackson did. I don't know. I mean, who's available right now that can
Mike
come in and
D'Antoni just became available. Perfect fit.
Is he?
I think
a big reason.
He would make them the most entertaining team in the NBA to watch.
Yeah, okay. He would. No, I mean, I think offensively he would help that team tremendously, but defensively they would suffer. And, I mean, would they just become, the mid-2000 Phoenix Suns again that couldn't get over the hump either?
I'm not complaining. They were great to watch.
I don't think he has to worry about the defense because the defensive system is already in place. The defense has already improved every single season that Mark Jackson was there, and I actually would love it if D'Antoni went to Golden State and coached them to the finals within the next 2 seasons. I would love it. I would love it.
Okay, but you really think they're good enough to get to the finals with this roster? I just don't think they are.
They might not be, but
if they could take the Clippers to 7 games without Andrew Bogut, and I feel that the Clippers are going to make the finals, then yes, I think they can.
I disagree. I think David Lee is too much of a defensive liability, and Klay Thompson's too inconsistent. A second scoring option for them. They still have strides to make, and it's unclear to me whether they can do that or not. I don't see Golden State as an actual contender for a chip right now.
I think you have something personal against Golden State, Adam. That's what this is about. You keep grinding on.
I don't like Mark Jackson. What can I say? I'm glad he's gone.
All right, let's get into the second round of the playoffs because, well, it's round 2. We're actually halfway through round 2 already. Just a quick status update on the series. Indiana is up against the Wizards 2-1. The Thunder hold the same advantage over the Clippers, and both San Antonio and Miami hold 2-0 series advantage in their respective series. Not nearly as an exciting second round so far as we had in the first, guys. I guess the real big question that I have right now about this second round is anybody going to stop Miami in the Eastern Conference?
I'm going to go say no. I really thought that Boston was going to pick Miami apart, and that has not been the case. They look just incredibly exhausted. Clearly, Toronto's legs wore them out. Kevin Garnett looks like a shell of his former self, and the way that the way the Nets played against Toronto, that Game 7, they did an amazing job. Their defense was on point. They were scoring really well, and Toronto still took it down to the final possession. So they must be completely exhausted because Miami does not look like they've even broken a sweat in this series. And the way that the Wizards and the Pacers are going, Miami looks like they can cruise all the way to the finals. Now, I'm sure I've stuck my foot in my mouth and they're probably going to lose to Brooklyn now, but even if they drop one or two, it still doesn't look like anybody can stop Miami in the East.
Yeah, they look like they're just going to tear everything apart and then just kind of cruise into the finals. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing for Miami, though, to not face any sort of opposition going into the finals, because we know the team that they meet in the finals is going to be a much tougher challenge than what they're facing so far in the East. So you want a team to be battle-tested, right, by the time they get there. I don't know, maybe it is a good thing, like the Lakers ran through the playoffs in 2001. I don't know, maybe it's a good thing. One of the things that I'm noticing in the series is that the matchup problems that Brooklyn gave Toronto, they're not giving to Miami. Like Joe Johnson, they have somebody who can guard Joe Johnson.
Yeah.
Paul Pierce isn't stretching the floor the way he did against Toronto because Miami can go small and match up with him.
Yeah.
So those advantages that Brooklyn had and that people thought that they were going to hold, considering that they beat Miami 4 games during the regular season, just evaporated in the playoffs. And clearly Miami's taken itself to another level here.
Yeah, Shane Battier's reappearance in the starting lineup isn't a coincidence after playing something like 3 minutes in the first series against Charlotte. His size really gives Joe Johnson and Paul Pierce a lot of trouble. And Kevin Garnett and Andre Blatche have not shown up in the way that Brooklyn needs them to in order to really start giving Miami fits. And then you can talk about, again, the reappearance of Battier and of the resurrection of Ray Allen, who clearly loves sticking it to his former Boston teammate. He's outscored both of them through the first 2 games, something like 27-12. And the resurrection of the three-point game has made Miami what they are when they're running on all 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cylinders, which is an unguardable beast. And they're just showing that by not even breaking a sweat against the Nets.
I think the most contested series we might have here in the second round is Oklahoma City and the Clippers.
Absolutely.
They played a fantastic game last night. After the first 2 games, they exchanged blowouts. How do you see this series shaking out, Lamont?
I have no idea.
That's fair, man.
Like I
didn't know who was going to win that game last night at all until about a minute left.
Yeah, once not Golden State, Oklahoma City kind of pulled away in the last minute after there was a lob play to DeAndre Jordan that didn't go quite through, and then Oklahoma City hit a couple of shots and then they pulled away. I really don't know what's going to happen in this series. I wish I did. I hope that there's not any more blowouts. That's really all. I know that's not very smart, not in-depth analysis, but I think if Russell Westbrook continues to play like he's done in the last 2 games, they get something from Serge and possibly Reggie Jackson, or maybe even Cephalosha or Caron Butler. I don't know how the Clippers can beat them.
Yeah, the Clippers aren't getting production from that third spot. I mean, Griffin and Paul have been terrific the entire series, but not Griffin, but they're not getting production from Jamal Crawford. They're not getting those great, huge double-double games from DeAndre Jordan. Matt Barnes hasn't had a huge impact on this series. Like, their peripheral guys haven't really done as much versus Ibaka, who had, 20 points last night or something like that. So they're not getting that same team effort that the Thunder are, and that could spell doom for the Clippers if they're not able to get that production from, especially Crawford. I mean, they missed that guy's production sorely right now. He's a big X factor off the bench. What do you just real quick, guys? What do you expect out of Indiana and Washington going forward? Anything that makes us think that Indiana will not win this series?
After what they did last night,
Yeah.
I almost don't want to watch. I almost don't want to watch them anymore after that game last night. Oh no, but really, what we've seen in the last two games is Roy Hibbert's sort of rebounding, playing better. Last night was more typical of the way that the Pacers started off the season, of an early December, January game that the Pacers were playing. They kind of started off to a semi-slow start offensively, but still playing great defense, and then they would pull away in the second half, by picking up their offense just enough for the defense to take over. John Wall and Bradley Beal haven't been particularly good in this series.
Yeah, they're showing their youth now. I mean, that's kind of what's happening.
Which is weird because they did such a good job in that first round against Chicago. Both those guys, they had, Bradley Beal was fantastic against Chicago. So was John Wall.
Nene was really good too, and I think that's the difference, is that Nene just hasn't been able to take advantage of David West and Roy Hibbert the way he did Joakim Noah and Carlos Boozer. Boozer, your favorite player.
Boozer. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, that game was horrible to watch. I think the first half score was 30-33, and the Wizards ended up scoring 66 points in 4 quarters. That's pathetic in a playoff game. But I think, Chris, you pointed it out. Nene's become a jump shooter, and he's not David West. He cannot consistently hit that 17-footer. And because Hibbert has woken up and decided to be a 7-foot tall professional basketball player, it really changes the dynamic. If Nene can't take advantage of David West, and if Gortat can't nullify Roy Hibbert, then the Wizards don't have a chance. They out-hustled Indiana in the first game, and they haven't been able to do that. Their skill level is just not where it is. I still think Randy Whitman should be on the hot seat. I still don't think he's a very good coach. I still don't think he's going to give that team the coaching edge that they need to beat a real contender. And it's sad to me that even a sluggish Indiana Pacers can blow out the Wizards. And I'm not sure what that says about the Chicago team in the first round, except for they had nobody who could score for them, and the Wizards just out-hustled them. They're not going to out-hustle the Pacers even at 75%, and the Pacers showed that last night. So if they can keep getting production from Roy Hibbert, even what I would consider to be mediocre production, they shouldn't have any problem outlasting the Wizards. But you don't want to go to 7 games in a series if you don't have to. So it'll be interesting to see if the Pacers have the wherewithal, the will, the drive, the intention to shut that series off as quickly as possible, because you don't want to play more games than you have to in the playoffs. And if by any chance Miami cruises through Brooklyn and wins 4-0, they're going to be a really well-rested team. And if the Pacers go to 7, that could really hamper them in an Eastern Conference Finals against their nemesis.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm not going to even bother with asking you guys who you think is going to win. I mean, these series are already halfway through, so making a prediction really doesn't make any sense at this point. But I will say, once again, Game 4 is going to be so important. Well, of course, Indiana and OKC are up 2-1, and if both of them win Game 4, I mean, once you go down 3-1, that's just a death wish. Yeah. So, Game 4, once again, super important in the playoffs.
Well, I think Wizards take the Pacers to 7. That's my guess. I think they can take the Pacers to 7.
Given the fact that even though Roy Hibbert is playing better, the rest of the team kind of isn't. I think the Wizards can stretch that series, and that series is still up in the air. I did think they blew I did think that they blew a golden opportunity last night, considering how last night was either some combination of bad offense and great defense, and I thought Washington could have took advantage of that going into halftime and had close to a double-digit lead, but they didn't.
Yeah, Washington blew a chance last night because neither team was playing. It was like a college game last night. Let's not talk about it because it was horrible. So let's not talk about horrible. Let's talk about good things. Let's talk about San Antonio and Portland, the only people we haven't discussed.
Yeah, San Antonio is just in total control of that series. They've shut down LaMarcus Aldridge, Damian Lillard. Well, I mean, he hasn't had an opportunity to come up with any late game heroics.
I haven't been that
And
close.
yeah, exactly. That's what they just San Antonio just completely shut them down, and Tony Parker has been Tony Parker. I mean, he's been the Frenchman in the
No,
playoffs.
no. He hasn't been Tony Parker because that's not the Tony Parker that showed up during the season. Because I know he was on my fantasy team. I don't know who he is now. He's not the one that I had on my fantasy team the whole dang season. So where the heck was this when I needed him? Tony, are you listening? I know you watch our show, Tony. This is unacceptable. I need this kind of production in the regular season next year. I'm not bitter. I'm not bitter.
I think if he played Portland every single game as if it was the second round of the playoffs during the regular season, then you might be all right. But I mean, he had 30 points in the first 2 games of the series.
He's not committed to me, and that hurts.
Kawhi Leonard's been playing really well too. I know you had him on your fantasy team for a while there.
Till I dropped him. Screw that guy too. I've never dropped in another Spur in fantasy. That's not worth it.
Basically, what happened is Dallas woke up a sleeping
They woke up
giant.
the beast. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sleeping giant. If that's possible to do, if you could call a team that won 60 games a sleeping giant.
The best record in the league.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, nobody expected that first round series to go 7 games. And that's what I mean. Like, somebody's got to test you.
Yeah.
They had their wake up call. Like, okay, someone punched him in the mouth, and they said, okay, well, we're gonna fight back. Beat Dallas in Game 7 pretty handedly, and now are just like, all right, Portland, we need to make quick work of this. We're not going to allow this series to go 7 games. So we'll just take these first 2. Well, I would assume they're going to split the games in Portland, and they'll wrap things up in San Antonio. And that's it.
I don't even think they'll split them. San Antonio is playing otherworldly right now. They're incredible, and I don't think Portland has a chance because it boils down to coaching to me. Terry Stotts needs to make some changes, and he hasn't done that. He hasn't proven that he has the mental agility necessary to match up in this game against Pop. And let's just say, for the sake of argument, that they have equal talent. And I don't believe that right now. I think San Antonio has more talent than Portland does. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, that they're equal. Pop's going to outcoach Terry Stotts 11 times out of 10. So I don't think Portland has a chance, given the way that San Antonio is coming together as a team, and given the fact that they have the best coach in the league, not just in the series. I think that this is going to go 4-0, and that San Antonio is going to get some much-needed rest.
There it is. I didn't ask for predictions, but we got them anyway. Hey, let's get into some performances and embarrassments of the week, guys. This is our favorite time of the show every single week. And given that there are fewer games, we can spotlight a couple more people here through our performances and embarrassments. So let's begin with performances of the week in Lamont. Who is your performance of the week?
I'm gonna go with Serge Ibaka. Last night, he was amazing. He couldn't miss a shot. He was 9 for 10, scored 20 points, and was a huge difference maker. I also thought Kyle Lowry did a great job in being on NBA Game Time.
Oh, he's got the 2-for-1 performance of the week.
Oh yeah, hey.
Kyle Lowry.
Like I said, we got time to fit more in, right?
Do we have time?
Maybe not.
All right, go ahead.
But anyways, I thought Kyle Lowry did a good job on NBA Game Time. A much better job than, say, people that have more experience doing that analytic role.
Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah.
All right, Adam, who was your performance of the week?
I went with Kevin Durant, the MVP, who gave an MVP speech. I was really impressed by his selflessness. It was not a great speech as far as speeches go, but I thought he did a great job of honoring the people around him and basically saying, I couldn't do this award without other people. I really like to see that, and I would really like to see it especially from Kevin Durant because I don't know anything about him, and he has roughly -3% personality on the court, so it was really good to see him emerge as a person and to give credit to the ecosystem that made him into an MVP. Now, clearly he couldn't do it without his own drive and his own hard work, but again, nobody did it themselves, to quote Barack Obama in a very controversial quote, and for him to acknowledge that the organization and the players around him made him better, and to see the way that he also honored his mother was just really touching to me. So that's my performance of the week, Kevin Durant's MVP speech.
My performance of the week goes to Kevin Durant's teammate, Russell Westbrook, who Kevin Durant actually stood up for in that acceptance speech. And Westbrook is always the focal point of everybody's criticism of the Thunder. But what has he done so far in round two? Oh, just, triple-double in game 2, 31 points, 10 rebounds, and assists.
Triple-double.
Triple-double. Hey, it's in the box score that way, so we'll count it. Close enough. And then just follow that up with 23 points, 13 assists, and 8 rebounds in game 3. He's been really good in round 2. He's been a real difference maker for the Thunder in round 2, and he gets my performance of the week. Embarrassment of the week, Lamont.
The official Oklahoma City stat keeper that awarded Russell Westbrook's 10th assist in game 2. An assist is defined as a pass that leads directly to a basket, not a pass that leads to a basket 20 seconds after the pass was made. I don't know who chalked up that assist just to give him a triple double, but that's just a terrible case of homerism. Whatever he's supposed to be a professional stat keeper and should know that's not an assist. That was just terrible. I want to know his name, by the way.
How do you know?
We all know that it's easier to get assists in some arenas than others, and maybe Oklahoma City, it's a little bit easier in that arena to get assists.
Tiny bit.
Tiny bit.
Cephalosha took like 4 dribbles after catching the pass.
Yeah, but would he have gotten that basket if it weren't for the pass? I don't think so. I give the credit to Russell there. Let Westbrook be Westbrook. Adam, who's your embarrassment of the week?
My embarrassment of the week is the Brooklyn Nets. Come on! Kevin Garnett scoreless. Darren Williams scoreless. Where's the team that beat Miami 4 times in the regular season? You guys have pride in Kevin Garnett and stuff. You should do better. You're a professional team, and these are your arch nemesis.
Maybe Miami just hit him with the season-long okey doke. Hit him with the rope-a-dope. They're just like, we're just going to let you guys beat us during the regular season because we know we're going to play you in the playoffs. Just to give you that little bit of confidence that you think you're going to have against us in the playoffs, and then we'll just turn it on. Maybe that's what that was.
I don't think that they let them win, but I don't think them winning all 4 hurt them at all. I think that they were perfectly willing to go into this series knowing that they could beat this team. But still, they should do better. Darren Williams didn't score any points. What's that about? He's not old. He should be doing better. Although it is nice to see that he's doing the same performance in the playoffs that he had for you, Chris, in the regular season.
Which is, one that I picked him up late in the regular season, and then I ended up dropping him eventually. So, yeah, Darren Williams, 0 point. Let's just give that line. I don't know what KG's line looked like, but Darren Williams, 0 points, 0 for 9 from the field. He did have 7 points and 7 rebounds and 6 assists, but 0 for 9 from the field.
Yeah, Kevin Garnett in Game 3 had 4 points and 12 rebounds.
Wow. Yeah, those guys are struggling. I guess not anything is possible.
Ouch!
Yeah. So my embarrassment of the week, we talked about this game already. That Game 3 between the Pacers and the Wizards, where the Wizards only scored 63 points. Meanwhile, the Clippers scored 63 points in the first half of their game. Following that, an NBA team to score only 63 points in a game, especially in the playoffs, is pitiful. They only shot 33% from the field. Bradley Beal, 6 of 19. Nene, only 3 of 14. Disappointed. I expected more out of these Wizards, especially after really surprising us in the first round by taking care of the Bulls so easily. I thought that they would play better. I just expected more out of this team, and I expected them to really push the Pacers. They got one more game in Washington to kind of sort that out, and if they're not able to do that, they'll be going fishing.
Nothing wrong with going fishing. Sure helped Roy Hibbert.
That's true. Roy Hibbert almost had my embarrassment of the week, but he redeemed himself in the second game of that series. So Uh, anything else, guys, that you want to talk about before we head out?
No, I'm
Go
good.
away, Shelly.
Go away, who?
Shelly.
Go away, Shelley Sterling. Yes, and she gets an embarrassment of the week for that too. Like, come on, we know you're racist too, Shelley. Well, thanks for joining the People's Court. We've talked about quite a bit today, including Donald Sterling, the several coaching changes. Well, not necessarily changes, but the coaching
The coaching carousel that
Carousel.
never stops.
never stops. We talked about round 2 of the playoffs and also our performances and embarrassments of the week. Hit us up on Twitter at People's Court FM. Call us. Leave us a message. 424-ADJOURN. That's 424-235-7633. Check us out on our website, http://thepeoplescourt.fm. Our next episode, Saturday, May 17th, 11:30 a.m. Pacific Time. As always, episode 158 of the People's Court was brought to you by the St. Louis Hawks, reminding us that somebody had to win a title before Bill Russell stole them all. Court is adjourned.